The knock at the door made my heart stop. I knew who it was, the CPS worker my mother-in-law Margaret had called, claiming I was an unfit mother. I took a deep breath, smoothed my shirt, and opened the door with trembling hands. "Mrs. Anderson, I'm Diana Wells from Child Protective Services. We received a concerning report about your children's welfare," the woman said, her expression professional but kind. Behind her, I could see Margaret's silver Mercedes parked across the street, her satisfied smirk visible through the windshield. "My name is Emma Anderson, and at 32, I never imagined I'd be facing a CPS investigation orchestrated by my own mother-in-law. I had 3 children, twins Jack and Sophia, age 4, and baby Lily, just 8 months old. After Lily's birth, I'd struggled with postpartum depression, something I'd been open about with my family while seeking treatment. But Margaret had seen my vulnerability as an opportunity. She'd never approved of me, constantly comparing me to my husband James's first wife who'd passed away before we met. Now she was using my mental health struggles to try and take my children away. "Please come in," I said, stepping aside. The house wasn't perfect. There were toys in the living room and dishes in the sink, but it was clean, safe, and filled with love. The twins were napping upstairs, and Lily was contentedly playing in her playpen. "Mrs. Anderson, we received reports of severe neglect," Diana said, taking out her notebook. "The complainant states you leave your children alone for hours, don't feed them regularly," and she paused, checking her notes, "have violent outbursts in front of them." I felt my chest tighten, but I refused to let Margaret's lies break me. "I understand your concerns," I said calmly. "I'd like to show you something." I retrieved a thick folder from my office. Inside were documented records of every aspect of our family life since Lily's birth. My therapy appointments, the children's medical checkups, their preschool reports, even photographs of our daily activities. I'd started keeping these records the day Margaret first threatened to expose me as an unfit mother. "I have postpartum depression," I explained, meeting Diana's eyes. "I've been in treatment for 6 months. My therapist, Dr. Stevens, can verify everything. The children have never been left alone, they're well fed, and they're thriving." Diana spent the next hour thoroughly inspecting our home, checking the kitchen, fully stocked, the children's rooms, clean and organized, and observing my interaction with Lily when she woke from her nap. The twins woke up soon after, running to me with sleepy smiles and eager hugs. "Mama, can we have apple slices?" Sophia asked, while Jack already headed to the kitchen where he knew they were kept in the bottom drawer, their special snack spot. As Diana watched our normal afternoon routine unfold, I could see her initial concern shifting to something else. She'd arrived expecting to find neglected children and a dangerous environment. Instead, she found a loving home with established routines and happy kids. "Mrs. Anderson," Diana said finally, "I have to ask, your mother-in-law made some very specific accusations. Can you tell me about your relationship with her?" I sat down, keeping my voice steady. "Margaret has never accepted me. She believes no one can replace her son's first wife. When I developed postpartum depression, she saw it as proof that I was unfit to be part of this family." I showed Diana the text messages, hundreds of them. Messages where Margaret threatened to take my children away, called me mentally unstable, and promised to save her grandchildren from me. Messages I carefully documented, along with dates and times of every incident. "She stands in our driveway sometimes, taking pictures through our windows," I continued. "She tells the neighbors I'm dangerous. She's tried to convince my husband to leave me, saying the children would be better off with her." Diana's expression grew serious as she reviewed the evidence of Margaret's harassment. "Mrs. Anderson, have you considered filing for a restraining order?" Before I could answer, the front door opened. James was home early from work, his face tight with concern. He'd rushed home after I texted him about the CPS visit. "I'm so sorry I wasn't here sooner," he said, sitting beside me. He turned to Diana. "My mother has been harassing my wife for months. We've tried reasoning with her, setting boundaries, even threatening legal action. Nothing has worked." Diana closed her notebook. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, based on what I've seen today, there's no evidence to support the allegations of neglect or abuse. In fact," she paused, looking directly at me, "I'm impressed by the level of documentation and organization you've maintained while dealing with this situation." Through the window, I could see Margaret still sitting in her car, probably waiting to witness my children being taken away. What she didn't know was that her plan was about to backfire spectacularly. However, Diana continued, I am concerned about the pattern of harassment you've documented. False reports to CPS are taken very seriously, especially when they appear to be part of a larger campaign of harassment. James squeezed my hand. What are you suggesting? Diana stood up, straightening her jacket. I'm going to recommend an investigation. Not into Mrs. Anderson's parenting, but into your mother's behavior. This kind of harassment can be devastating to a family's well-being, particularly when someone is already dealing with postpartum depression. As Diana left our house, I caught Margaret's shocked expression as the social worker walked straight to her car. I couldn't hear what was said, but I saw Margaret's face turn pale. This wasn't the end, I knew that. But for the first time since Lily's birth, I felt strong enough to fight back. Margaret had tried to use my mental health struggles against me, but she unknowingly given me the ammunition I needed to protect my family once and for all. James hugged me tightly as we watched his mother's car speed away. I'm so proud of you, he whispered. We'll end this, I promise. I nodded, holding him close as the twins played with their blocks and Lily babbled happily in her playpen. Margaret thought she could break me, but she'd only made me stronger. The real investigation was just beginning, and I was ready. The weeks following the CPS visit were tense but transformative. Diana's investigation into Margaret's harassment had opened a floodgate of revelations that none of us were prepared for. We've received similar complaints about your mother-in-law from 3 other families, Diana told us during our follow-up meeting. She spread several files across our dining room table while the children played in the next room under their babysitter's supervision. It turned out Margaret had a history of harassing her son's partners. James' older brother Michael's ex-wife had filed a police report against her 5 years ago. His younger brother David's girlfriend had moved to another state just to escape her interference. I had no idea, James said, his voice hollow as he read through the reports. They never told me. I thought it was just me. I finished softly, placing my hand over his. The evidence was overwhelming. Margaret had used the same tactics with each woman: surveillance, false accusations, attempts to turn family members against them. She'd even called CPS on Michael's ex-wife, claiming she was drugging her children. The investigation had proven the allegations false, but the damage to their family had been done. One afternoon, while sorting through old family photos James had brought from his father's house, I found something that made everything click into place. It was a worn envelope containing letters from James's late wife, Anna. James, I called, my hands shaking. I think you need to see this. The letters detailed Anna's own struggles with Margaret's interference. She'd written to her parents about Margaret's constant criticism, her surprise visits, her attempts to control every aspect of their lives. The last letter was dated just 2 weeks before her fatal car accident. I can't take her surveillance anymore, Anna had written. She follows me everywhere, takes pictures, tells everyone I'm unstable. James doesn't see it. He thinks she's just being protective. But I'm scared. Yesterday she threatened to take everything from me if I don't leave on my own. James read the letters in silence, tears streaming down his face. She told me Anna had been acting paranoid, he whispered, that she'd been imagining things. I believed her. Oh God, I believed her. The guilt in his voice broke my heart. I held him as he cried, both of us processing the weight of this revelation. Margaret hadn't just been harassing me. She'd been systematically destroying relationships for years, possibly contributing to the circumstances that led to Anna's accident. Deanna helped us file for a temporary restraining order. The evidence was substantial: the documented harassment, the false CPS report, the pattern of behavior revealed in the other cases, and now Anna's letters. Margaret's response was swift and vicious. She began calling other family members, telling them I had manipulated James into turning against her, that I was using my mental illness to steal her grandchildren. But this time, her tactics didn't work. Michael was the first to reach out. I should have warned you, he said during a long phone call with James. After what happened with Karen, I wanted to pretend it never happened. I'm so sorry. David followed, sharing his own stories of how Margaret had driven away every woman he dated. She always said she was protecting us, he explained, but she was really just controlling us. The family dynamic was shifting. Years of silence were being broken, and Margaret's carefully constructed image of the devoted mother was crumbling. One evening, as I tucked the twins into bed, Sophia asked a question that made my heart ache. "Mama, why doesn't Grandma love us anymore?" I sat on the edge of her bed, choosing my words carefully. "Grandma loves you very much," I said. "But sometimes people show love in ways that aren't healthy. That's why we need to take a break from seeing her for a while." "Because she was mean to you?" Jack asked from his bed. "Yes, sweetheart, and it's important to stand up to people who are mean, even if they're family." As I kissed them goodnight, I realized that this wasn't just about protecting myself anymore. It was about teaching my children about healthy relationships and boundaries, about standing up for what's right even when it's difficult. Later that night, James and I sat on our back porch, watching the stars while Lily slept peacefully inside. "I've called a family therapist," he said quietly, "for all of us. I think we need help processing everything." I squeezed his hand, grateful for how far we'd come. The man who once dismissed his mother's behavior as just her way was now actively working to protect our family and heal from years of manipulation. "We're going to be okay," I said, and for the first time in months, I truly believed it. Diana's investigation was building a strong case, and Margaret's web of control was unraveling thread by thread. But even as we gathered more evidence and support, I knew the hardest part was still to come. Margaret wouldn't give up her control easily, and we needed to be prepared for whatever she might do next. What we didn't expect was that her next move would lead to the most shocking revelation of all, one that would change everything we thought we knew about our family's history. The revelation came on a rainy Tuesday morning. James's father, George, who had remained quietly on the sidelines throughout the ordeal, arrived at our door looking older and more tired than I'd ever seen him. "There's something you need to know," he said, placing a weathered leather journal on our kitchen table. "Something I should have told you years ago." It was Margaret's old diary dating back to when James and his brothers were children. George had found it while cleaning out their attic after the restraining order forced Margaret to move out. "I knew she was controlling," George said, his voice heavy with regret. "But I never understood the extent until I read this. She's been planning these interventions for years." The diary detailed Margaret's systematic approach to controlling her sons' lives. She had actual lists of techniques to use: emotional manipulation, gaslighting, false accusations. She documented every victory when she successfully drove someone away from her children. But the most chilling entry was about Anna's death. "The accident wasn't an accident," George said quietly. According to her diary, Margaret had been tampering with Anna's car, loosening parts, hoping to scare her into leaving. She never meant for the brake line to fail completely. James stumbled back, gripping the counter for support. I felt the room spin as the implications sank in. Margaret hadn't just harassed Anna. She had inadvertently caused her death. Within hours, Diana and the police were at our house. The diary became crucial evidence not just for our case, but for a potential criminal investigation. Margaret was arrested that evening. The news coverage was immediate and overwhelming. "Controlling mother-in-law's harassment leads to criminal charges," read the headlines. Years of manipulative behavior had finally caught up with her. In the midst of the chaos, something unexpected happened. Our community rallied around us. Neighbors who had believed Margaret's lies about me came forward with apologies. Parents from the twins' preschool organized meal trains and playdates to give us time to deal with the legal proceedings. The most profound change was in James. The weight of guilt over not believing Anna, not protecting me sooner, could have crushed him. Instead, it transformed him. "I'm going to make this right," he promised, holding me close one night. Not just for us, but for Anna, for Michael's ex-wife, for everyone she hurt. He organized a support group for families affected by parental manipulation and control. The stories that emerged showed just how many people had suffered in silence, thinking they were alone. My postpartum depression, which Margaret had tried to use against me, became a source of strength. I started speaking at support groups, sharing how documenting everything had ultimately protected our family. The twins, resilient as children often are, adapted to the changes with remarkable grace. "Mommy's helping other families," they'd tell people proudly. Lily grew into a happy, secure toddler, untouched by the darkness that had threatened our family. Margaret's trial was brief but impactful. She pleaded guilty to multiple charges of harassment and involuntary manslaughter. The judge's sentence, 15 years, reflected the severity of her actions and their tragic consequences. As I sat in the courtroom, watching Margaret being led away, I felt no satisfaction, only relief. The woman who had tried to destroy our family had lost everything in her attempt to control it. 1 year later, we gathered for a different kind of family meeting. James and his brothers, their partners, and all the children came together to heal and rebuild. It was messy and emotional, but it was real. No manipulation, no control, just honest love and acceptance. Looking around at our extended family, I realized that Margaret's actions, while intended to tear us apart, had ultimately brought us closer together. We had all learned valuable lessons about standing up for ourselves, supporting each other, and recognizing toxic behavior before it could take root. George, who now spent every Sunday with his grandchildren, making up for lost time, summed it up best. Sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most important victories. As I watched my children play with their cousins, secure in the knowledge that they were safe and loved, I knew he was right. Margaret had tried to break me, claiming I was an unfit mother. Instead, she had helped me become stronger, not just for myself, but for every mother facing similar battles. The CPS investigation she initiated hadn't just cleared my name. It had exposed a truth that needed to be revealed, setting us all free in the process.